The year was 2847 when humanity finally made contact with the Galactic Council. For centuries, humans had dreamed of meeting alien life. They had sent signals into the void, built massive telescopes, and launched probes to distant stars. When the ship descended through Earth's atmosphere and landed in the middle of the United Nations Plaza, people wept with joy. They believed their greatest dream had come true. They were wrong. Ambassador of the stepped out of his silver vessel with disgust barely hidden on his elongated face. His four eyes scanned the crowd of humans who had gathered to welcome him. To him, they looked primitive, weak. Their bodies were soft, they're short, and their technology was laughably behind the rest of the galaxy. They had lived for 10,000 years among the stars. They had mastered gravity, bent light to their will, and conquered death itself through consciousness transfer. Humans still fought wars over pieces of land and poisoned their own planet. The Galactic Council consisted of 12 elder races. Each had proven their worth through of advancement and contribution to galactic civilization. They were the oldest and held the most power. Below them were the massive beings who had built the galaxy's trade networks. There were beings of pure energy who maintained the communication systems across 10,000 worlds. There were warriors whose fleets kept peace through fear. And so the list continued, each race more ancient and powerful than anything humanity could imagine. When humanity petitioned to join the council, the response was unanimous laughter. Ambassador presented their case to the 12 elder races, and his report was damning. Humans were violent, he said. They had used nuclear weapons on their own kind. They had nearly destroyed their home planet through greed and ignorance. Their average was barely 100 years, which meant they could never develop true wisdom. Their bodies were fragile, unable to survive in most environments without artificial support. They were, in the Council's official words, a primitive species not yet ready for galactic civilization. But it was not rejection that awaited humanity. It was something far worse. The Council had discovered something troubling during their study of human history. Despite their short lives and fragile bodies, humans bred at an alarming rate. Their population had grown from 1 billion to 12 billion in just 2 centuries. More concerning was their adaptability. Humans had spread across their entire planet, surviving in frozen wastelands, burning deserts, and dense jungles. They had even begun colonizing their neighboring planets. The Council saw this not as achievement but as threat. Elder of the spoke the words that would change everything. Humans were like a virus, he declared. Left unchecked, they would spread across the galaxy, consuming resources and disrupting the careful balance the elder races had maintained for. The solution was clear. Humanity must be contained. The exile order came without warning. 3,000 warships appeared in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. They broadcast a single message to every screen, every radio, every device on the planet. Humanity was hereby banished from known space. They were forbidden from traveling beyond the boundaries of their solar system. Any human vessel found in Council territory would be destroyed without question. Any alien race that aided or traded with humans would face severe punishment. Earth and its colonies were to be surrounded by a barrier of monitoring stations that would alert the Council to any violation. The humans who had gathered to celebrate first contact now watched in horror as the barrier went up. Hundreds of satellites were deployed, forming a net around their solar system. The message was clear. Humanity was not welcome among the stars. They were prisoners in their own home. For the first 50 years, humanity raged against their cage. They sent ships toward the barrier, hopping to find weaknesses. They destroyed every single one. They sent messages pleading for mercy, for a chance to prove themselves. The Council never responded. Some humans fell into despair, believing their species would forever be trapped. Others turned that despair into hatred for the aliens who had rejected them. But a third group did something different. They began to plan. Admiral Sarah was 93 years old when she proposed the Prometheus Initiative. She had been a young officer when the exile began, and she had spent her entire life studying the barrier and the technology behind it. Her proposal was simple but bold. If humanity could not go through the barrier, they would go around it. The galaxy was vast beyond comprehension. The Council controlled only a fraction of it. There were regions of space so distant that even the elder races had never explored them. Humanity would find a way to reach those regions, and there they would grow strong enough to return. The Prometheus initiative required technology humanity did not yet possess. Faster-than-light travel was essential, but human scientists had barely begun to understand the principles behind it. The Council's barrier prevented any alien technology from reaching Earth, so humans had to develop everything themselves. What would have taken the elder races centuries to achieve, humanity accomplished in decades. Their short lives became their greatest advantage. Each generation built upon the work of the previous one with desperate urgency. Humans did not have the luxury of waiting. They knew they would die before seeing the results of their work. They worked anyway. Dr. James invented the fold drive at the age of 34. The technology allowed ships to fold space itself, jumping instantly from one point to another. Unlike the Council's hyperdrive systems, the fold drive left no detectable signature. When the first human ship folded past the barrier without triggering a single alarm, celebrations erupted across Earth. The cage had been broken. But Admiral, now 140 years old thanks to advances in human medicine, urged caution. The Council must not know that humanity had escaped. If they discovered the fold drive, they would hunt down every human colony and destroy them. The exodus must happen in secret. Over the next 300 years, humanity quietly emptied Earth. Ships carried billions of people to distant regions of the galaxy, far beyond Council space. They found worlds the elder races had never touched, planets rich with resources and possibilities. Each colony was established with one purpose in mind: survival first, then growth, then strength. The humans never forgot their exile. They never forgot the way the Council had looked at them with contempt. They passed these memories down through generations like sacred fire. The colonies developed differently from Earth. Without the Council's restrictions, human innovation exploded. On the ice world of New Helsinki, scientists developed cold fusion reactors that produced unlimited clean energy. On the jungle planet of Verdant, geneticists created crops that could grow anywhere, ending the threat of famine forever. On the forge world of Prometheus, engineers built ships that made the Council's vessels look like toys. Each colony specialized, and together they formed a network of human civilization that spanned 1,000 worlds. The most significant development came from the research station on Athena. Doctor and her team cracked the code of human consciousness. They discovered how to transfer minds into artificial bodies, into computer networks, even into cloned forms. Death became optional. Humans could now live as long as the eldest races in the galaxy. More importantly, they could combine their minds, linking thousands of human intellects into vast collective networks that solved problems no individual could tackle alone. When these networks turned their attention to warfare, the results were terrifying. 500 years after the exile, humanity revealed itself. The Council received the first report from a border outpost in the 7th sector. A fleet of unknown design had appeared from nowhere and destroyed a patrol in seconds. The weapons they used were unlike anything the Council had seen. The ships moved in perfect coordination, as if guided by a single mind. Before they could respond, the fleet vanished, folding away to another location. More attacks followed. Council supply lines were disrupted. Monitoring stations went dark. Entire fleets disappeared without sending distress signals. The elder races sent their greatest warriors to investigate, and none returned. Panic spread through the council chambers for the first time in 10,000 years. Ambassador, now ancient even by standards, was the first to understand. He had studied humanity before the exile. He had dismissed them as primitive and weak. Now he recognized the signature of human design in the captured weapons, human efficiency in the attack patterns, human fury in the relentless strikes. He brought his findings to the council, and silence fell over the chamber. Humanity had returned, but they were no longer the fragile creatures the council had caged. They had become something else entirely. The human fleet appeared above the council without warning. 10,000 ships, each one bristling with weapons that could crack planets. At their head was a vessel called the Remembrance, named for the exile that humanity had never forgotten. From its bridge, Admiral, great-great-grandson of Sarah, broadcast a message to the 12 elder races. He did not threaten them. He did not demand surrender. Instead, he told them a story. He told them about the day the exile began, about the fear and despair his ancestors had felt. He told them about the centuries of work, the sacrifices made by billions of humans who knew they would never see the fruits of their labor. He told them about the children who grew up hearing stories of the stars they were forbidden to touch, and how those children had vowed to touch them anyway. Then he showed them what humanity had become. The fleet demonstrated weapons that could fold space itself, trapping enemy vessels in pocket dimensions. They showed shields that absorbed energy and redirected it as devastating counterattacks. They revealed that human consciousness networks had predicted every possible council response and prepared countermeasures for each one. The elder races realized with horror that they were utterly outmatched. But Admiral did not give the order to fire. Instead, he made an offer. Humanity did not want to destroy the council. They wanted to join it, not as inferiors begging for scraps, but as equals. The exile had taught humans an important lesson. Isolation bred stagnation. The council had grown complacent in their power, while humanity had been forced to evolve. Together, all races could achieve far more than they could apart. The vote was unanimous, though not by choice. The 12 elder races welcomed humanity to the Galactic Council. Ambassador personally delivered the invitation, his 4 eyes unable to meet the gaze of the human representatives. The species he had once dismissed as primitive now held the fate of his civilization in their hands. Humanity accepted gracefully. They did not seek revenge. They did not demand reparations for the centuries of exile. They simply took their seat at the table and began to work. Within a generation, human technology had spread across the galaxy, raising all races to new heights. The fold drive replaced the old hyperdrive systems. Human medicine extended the lives of short-lived species. Human art and music and literature enriched cultures that had grown stale over. The exile had been intended to cage humanity forever. Instead, it had forced them to become stronger than anyone imagined possible. The stars that had once been forbidden now belonged to them, and they were generous enough to share. On Earth, now a preserved monument to human history, a statue stood in the place where the ship had first landed. It depicted a human hand reaching toward the sky, fingers spread wide as if grasping for something just out of reach. Below it, a simple inscription read, "They told us we could not have the stars, so we took them anyway." And across the galaxy, in every human colony, in every alien world that had learned to respect the species they once despised, that message echoed through the ages. Humanity had been exiled, and humanity had risen. The stars belonged to all, because humans had decided to share what they had earned through 500 years of determination and sacrifice. The Galactic Council would never again underestimate the short-lived, fragile, primitive species from the small blue planet. And humanity would never again let anyone tell them what they could not achieve.